Muir. The temple fair is a good place to see the world. Old Ma finished a pair of crutches and placed them in front of the furniture and spoke to Qin Mu. There are many villages in great ruins, and some of the villagers are experts that could no longer mingle around in the outside world. They stayed here after being forced into great ruins, and have also taken in disciples of their own. Only during the temple fair would these people and their disciples gather here. Only at the temple fair would you be able to see all the various techniques and skills in the world. Qin Mu didn't really understand and gave it some thought. I lacked the experience of actual combat, therefore, it was hard for me to turn my cultivation into my actual prowess. Is that why Grandpa Ma wants me to grab this chance to spar with practitioners from various sects? Old Ma revealed an expression of affirmation. That's the reason. But what about selling crutches? Qin Mu asked in puzzlement. Why did Grandpa Blind set up a betting stall? Furthermore, the strange beast Grandpa Butcher is selling is clearly not a flood dragon. But why is he shouting that he is selling flood dragon's precious blood? Why had Grandpa Apothecary prepared his medicine in advance? Old gave a few coughs. This is adults' business. You're a kid, so don't ask so many questions. What are you waiting for? Qin Mu could only go up the arena and paste the words Blind had written onto the arena's pillars. Not long later, more and more villagers gathered under the arena. A boiling cauldron of voices made Qin Mu feel that Blind's words were inappropriate as well, but he was still stumped at the numbers of villagers those words had attracted. The unrivaled one that splits the river, sweeping away all 800 villages in great ruins. What a bold statement. You only look 11 or 12-year-old, and even if you had started cultivation in your mother's womb, your cultivation would also only be not more than so. A righteous voice rang out. Are you trying to challenge the villages in our great ruins by putting up these words? Who gave you the guts to? Qin Mu's face turned red from embarrassment, but he reacted and gave Blind an angry look. The voice was very familiar because wasn't it Blind who had shouted? Blind's righteous voice had a hint of bewitchment as he continued. Is there no real man in our great ruins? Are we letting this kid be arrogant up there? How could any of you hold yourself back listening to an 11 to 12 years old brat? Where's the unyielding spirit of the man of great ruins? Once this was said, it caused a great commotion as over a dozen young men immediately jumped onto the arena, turning Qin Mu's face green. However, our good men of great ruins shouldn't look down on him. Blind's voice was like a huge bell ringing in everyone's eardrums. Since he has set up his arena, we've to follow the rules. He has come here for a challenge and not a gang fight. We have to take our turns. Since this youth is of the spirit embryo realm, those that accept the challenge will have to be of the spirit embryo realm as well, so as not to lose faces of all the villages. As his voice fell silent, the dozen over young men walked down the arena, leaving only a young man on top. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief and said, How may I address senior brother? If you want a fight, so be it. Who's getting chummy with you? The young man suddenly fell on all fours and the vital qi in his body burst forth. Tiger stripes appeared on the back of his body, making him just like a fierce tiger. Sharp claws made from vital qi appeared on his palms and feet. With a sudden jump, he pounced towards Qin Mu as fast as a fleeting shadow. With this pounce, Qin Mu suddenly felt as if he was being targeted by an extremely savage strange beast. With the fierce wind in his face, it was like the roar of a tiger. This imposing aura was what he was lacking, and could only be comprehended during a life and death experience. The martial arts practitioners in other villages all had their unique points. Dragon markings appeared on Qin Mu's back and coiled around his limbs. His footsteps moved like the flowing river surging into the sea, with the waves sounding like thunder. He used water attributes from the black tortoise vital qi to execute the first form of thunderclap 8 strikes. Even though he still couldn't achieve thunder and palms, he still managed to unleash the grandeur of a river surging down into the sea without restraint. As both of them clashed, Qin Mu used this punch to take on his opponent. The might of the water attributes in black tortoise vital qi burst forth and actually formed the shape of a dragon head on his fist, surging forward violently. The young man immediately felt astonished. His opponent's strength was extremely powerful. His vital qi got destroyed and he flew back from Qin Mu's attack. Just at the instant where he flew backward, both his feet actually kicked towards Qin Mu's chest. His feet were extremely sharp like tiger's claws and tore apart Qin Mu's shirt. nearly slicing apart his belly. In a hurry, Qin Mu placed one foot on the ground as he fell backward while his other leg kicked as fast as lightning. The other person tumbled in the air from the kick and landed several yards away from the arena. The person flipped himself up and wanted to stand properly, but a crisp cracking sound suddenly came from his leg as his leg has been broken from Qin Mu's kick. Apothecary's voice lingered. Top quality medicine which can mend broken bones in a day, so as not to hold up your hunting. Old Ma shouted as well. A pair of crutches made from dragons I would. Extremely sturdy. Blind continued with a clear voice. If your luck is bad, you can come to me to change your fate. A pair of fortune rhyming couplets to bring fortune to your household. Deaf said in a loud voice. Qin Mu's face turned black and he stabilized himself. It had been an extremely dangerous situation earlier, and all they could think about was whether or not they could sell their goods. However, Grandpa Ma and the rest were right. I lack life and death experiences. The guy just now didn't have a cultivation higher than mine yet. He could almost slice apart my belly in that instant where he got hit backward, almost turning defeat into victory. Qin Mu took a deep breath as his eyes sparkled. I have too little experience in this area, and the temple fair is a rare chance for me to fight with practitioners from the villagers around here. This is my chance to absorb their battle experiences. I must defend this arena all the way to the end. More and more people crowded below the arena, creating quite a commotion. When fighting with the young man earlier, everyone could see Qin Mu had a dense cultivation but lacked an experience. To be able to survive in Great Ruins, every village basically would have martial arts practitioners and even divine arts practitioners. This was because the Great Ruins was simply too dangerous. All the villagers revered martial skills, having to be brave and be good at fighting. Very soon, there was another person that had jumped into the arena. It was a girl with a unique kind of black tortoise vital chi, but her attacks were ruthless. The moment they clashed, her vital chi was like a huge snake coiling around both of Qin Mu's legs, binding him tightly. After binding his legs, the girl was like a female snake slithering on his body as she went for the killing blow. Her vital chi was very queer as she transformed it into a huge snake to coil around Qin Mu. This kind of vital chi was different from the pure black tortoise vital chi but was classified as part of it. Tortoise and snakes were classified as black tortoise, however. Her spirit embryo should be a snake and not a tortoise, belonging to a branch of black tortoise. Therefore the motion of her body was also strange. Qin Mu used thousand-armed Buddha to defend against her strange attack, and despite her body motion being weird, Qin Mu seemed to have grown 1,000 arms as there were hands all around him. In just a short while she received hundreds of punches and fainted. Old Ma successfully sold a stretcher. This was the first time Qin Mu had met such a strange body technique and had suffered little injuries. However, it was good that it wasn't serious. On the arena, the battles continued, and there were also many people coming forward to Blind's fortune-telling table to bet on who would win. There was no fixed currency in Great Ruins, so tradings were all done using goods. If one thought that the value was almost equal, they would do the trade. It was the same with betting. Any pieces of jewelry, ores, jades, livestock were just used for betting. A pile of goods had already piled up behind Blind. There were all kinds of items like a multicolor feathered old hen that was as tall as a human. Inside its beak was filled with razor-sharp teeth, and it looked very menacing as it flapped its wings and scattered the sand away like a rain of arrows. This was a hen dragon and not an ordinary old hen. It's the offspring of a dragon and a hen. Even though the dragon blood in its body wasn't much, the eggs it laid were considered treasures. Next match, this poor monk would bet on my disciples win. Suddenly, one of the many names of Buddha sounded out as an old monk squeezed to the front of the fortune-telling stall and placed his monk staff on the table, pushing the feet of the tables deep into the ground. The old monk sat in front of Blind and put his hands together. This is the stake. Who dares to come wager with poor monk? Blind asked sternly. Great Thunderclap Monastery? The old monk replied. Great Thunderclap Monastery. Blind looked back at Old Ma and said, Old Ma, you handle this. Old Ma put down the crutch in his hand and sat in front of the old monk. The old monk raised his head and looked expressionlessly at Old Ma. Junior brother. Old Ma replied with a blank face. Senior brother. You had imparted out our Great Thunderclap Monastery's divine arts to others, breaking the rules of our Great Thunderclap Monastery. The old monk's white eyebrow was drooping as he said softly, Back then you severed your own arm and sent it to the monastery saying that you had returned our great Thunderclap Monastery's divine arts back to us. Your arm is still within the 1000 Buddha pagoda. Now you had imparted away our great Thunderclap Monastery's divine arts to that youth, going back on your words. Old Ma's chest moved up and down. Apparently, he was not in a calm mood and he retorted coldly, I severed my arm and sent it to Great Thunderclap Monastery, returning the divine arts back, so why did the monastery have to hunt me down and cause my family to be wrenched apart? Since the monastery is keen on my death, why can't I impart away the Great Thunderclap Monastery's divine art? The old monk shook his head. Junior brother, an arm doesn't represent all the divine arts. Old Ma chuckled softly. The divine arts I have doesn't all come from the Great Thunderclap Monastery either. Do you also want to depose my other divine arts as well? I may have been originally from the Great Thunderclap Monastery, but I relied on my hands to fight my way out. At that time none of you dared to stop me. You waited until I had a wife and a son, then you came for me. I was willing to sacrifice an arm for the safety of my wife and son, and returned you the divine arts of your Great Thunderclap Monastery. His face turned gloomy. But what happened afterward? All of you continued to hunt me down and tore my family apart. The old monk's white eyebrows shrugged. Rules are rules, what can be changed aren't rules. The vulgar world of mortals had disrupted your cultivation. Junior brother, our aim wasn't to kill you but to save you from the abyss of worldly sufferings and return to the Great Thunderclap Monastery to continue cultivation, to achieve Buddhahood through your efforts and insight. If you hadn't moved your mortal heart back then and fought your way out of Great Thunderclap Monastery, the Rulai spot of Great Thunderclap Monastery would have been yours. If you are willing to return with me, old Rulai would definitely be gratified. The Rulai spot will still be yours. Return. Old Ma was stupefied. Since I had slaughtered my way out back then, if I was to go back, I would naturally have to slaughter my way back. The old monk's expression sank and he sighed. Rulai would be very disappointed. The youth on the arena is your disciple? You imparted Thunderclap 8 strikes to him, and yet you didn't impart the cultivation method of Great Thunderclap Monastery, the Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Looking at Qin Mu, who was fighting against another young man on the arena, he stated, Rulai's Mahayana Sutra is the technique to subdue devils. Without cultivating this cultivation method, no matter how strong his Thunderclap 8 strikes becomes, it would just look impressive but is worthless. Today I have brought my disciple forward. Come and meet your senior uncle, Ming Xian. Behind him, a lanky young monk came forward with Buddhist prayer bead on his hand while he put his palms together. Senior uncle. The white eyebrows of the old monk fluttered upwards as he continued. Ming Xian is also a spirit embryo realm practitioner. With my monk staff as a wager, would junior brother match my gamble? Granny C raised her eyebrows and was about to say something when old Ma replied with an expressionless face. All the rules and monastic discipline are bullshit. I will match your gamble. How is my head worth to your Kakura monk staff? Old monk nodded his head and replied. They're worth about the same. Blind, Granny C and Apothecary knitted their brows, wanting to persuade old Ma not doing it. But he was resolute. If Moor loses, you'll take my head back to Great Thunderclap Monastery to meet Rulai. If Moor wins, you will leave your monk staff here and scram as far as possible. Excellent. Old monk faced the young monk, Ming Xian, and told him, Today your master I will be retrieving back the divine arts of Great Thunderclap Monastery from the traitor. If you win, it would be your merit. Ming Xian nodded and walked towards the arena. On the arena, the young man who was fighting against Qin Mu was an expert at sword skills and walked a similar path to senior brother Chu of the Li River's 5 disciples. His treasure sword was no further than 3 feet away from his body. However, what was different was that his sword wasn't as big. It was more like a small dagger that was 8 inches long. However, it was much more dangerous. This small sword would always fly out from weird places like under the armpits and crotch. Sometimes it would even fly into the opponent's clothes and shoot out from the sleeves when Qin Mu clashed face to face with him. With his sword control techniques reaching this high level, he was no weaker than Li River's disciple, Qian Qiu, and was actually much stronger than senior brother Chu. Furthermore, this person also had a great attainment in battle techniques. His palm skills were very intricate and his bearing was like a towering mountain. With the force surging out from his palm, there would be mountain veins appearing from his palm. However, the victory was already decided on the arena. With Qin Mu's great strength and agile footwork, the young man had already suffered a disadvantage during their first clash. Qin Mu's dense vital qi had directly crushed his vital qi. Qin Mu had executed Tempest of the Nine Dragons, and even though only 3 layers of force had burst forth, it had already damaged the bottom of his opponent's heart. Thus, no matter how exquisite his sword mastery was, the outcome was already set in stone. Qin Mu sprinted disorderly, just like thousands of snakes slithering randomly in the grass. He was suddenly east and suddenly west, sometimes forward and sometimes backward, confusing the young man as to where his attack would be coming from. In the next instant, the man felt a pain at the back of his heart as he got smacked away by Qin Mu. As the young man landed on the ground, he was stumped for a while before bowing towards Qin Mu, who was on the arena, and expressed his gratitude. "Thank you, little brother, for being lenient on me." Although Qin Mu's palm had pressed onto the back of his heart with a great force just now, the force wasn't violent and hadn't injured his heart. Otherwise, with Qin Mu's strength, he could have easily shattered all his organs. "Does junior brother need to rest?" Ming Xian, who had been quietly waiting there, asked only after Qin Mu had defeated this young man. Qin Mu's gaze fell upon his body. The monk was very young and was wearing white Buddhist robe which was free from even a speck of dust. Even the shoes on his feet were also white, while he was also very clean. Despite having his hair shaved off, he still looked rather handsome, making people have a favorable impression when looking at him. Just as he was about to reply that he did not, Granny C's voice suddenly rang out. "Rest? You definitely need to rest." Qin Mu didn't understand Granny C's reason for that, but he still heeded what Granny had said and sat down to rest, nursing himself back to tip-top condition. His Overlord Body 3 elixir technique was suitable to cultivate while running, so despite facing over a dozen practitioners, his vital qi wasn't depleted much and was still at its peak. However, his body had slight fatigue. Granny C brought up a cup of water and gave it to Qin Mu as she whispered to him. "Mu'er, no matter what method you use, you must win and definitely can't lose. Your grandpa Ma had bet his own life against that old baldy." Qin Mu's heart skipped a beat, and immediately looked at old Ma. Old Ma had an indifferent face and his voice traveled over. "Mu'er, the unrivaled Overlord Body will never lose. I believe in you." Despite Ma saying that, Qin Mu was still slightly panicky. Everyone in the village was his family, but old Ma was the closest to him next to Granny C. It was old Ma back then who had used one arm to carry the stone statue out with Granny C to pick him up from the river, saving his life. If he had lost, wouldn't he be the one who caused old Ma to die? At this moment, Apothecary also frowned. Old Ma believed that Qin Mu was the unrivaled Overlord Body, and trusted him, but Qin Mu wasn't an Overlord Body after all. Now he was starting to regret helping village chief to cover up the white lie. If he had told them the truth earlier, old Ma wouldn't have gambled his life. Simply because old Ma trusted Qin Mu, would he gamble his life with that old monk? Suddenly, Apothecary revealed a menacing gaze. "If Mu'er lost, we would just have to kill the old baldy and the young baldy. We can't let old Ma die just like that." On the arena, Qin Mu tried his best to stabilize his emotions, but when this battle concerned the life of his closest kin, how could he calm his emotions down? Mute gave a few hand signs and sounds while Blind propped himself on his crutch, saying hurriedly, "There's no need to remind him. This temple fair is a test. Once it's over, he would have grown up. If he doesn't pass it, he will still be a small child." After a moment, Qin Mu slowly rose up and looked at the lanky young monk in front of him. "Monk, does Buddha exist in your heart?" Ming Xian put his palms together and replied solemnly, "Buddha is always in my heart." Foosh! Qin Mu let out a murky breath. His vital qi became overbearing and intense. It actually had an undisciplined and out-of-control spirit emanating from his little body. He took a step forward, and the spirit flowing out from his body gave people a heroic feeling, like a towering god. His voice was so loud that even the deaf could hear. "Have no god, no Buddha, and no devil in my heart. I am God, Buddha, and devil." Once he had said that, the old monk sitting in front of old Ma revealed an astonished expression and turned his head to look at Qin Mu. Ming Xen, the little monk, flew into a fury when he heard that and shouted at Qin Mu, "Rebellious! How dare you insult Buddha?" Qin Mu revealed a smile and his heart became calm. His eyes overflowed with incomparable confidence as he knew no matter how strong this little monk is or what technique this little monk has, he had already lost to him in his frame of mind. The old monk sitting in front of old Ma hesitated. What Qin Mu had said seemed rebellious, as he had not only insulted Buddha, but also God and devil as well. However, in his ears it didn't sound rebellious, but instead, they were words of wisdom. With no Buddha in your heart, you can become a Buddha. When there's a Buddha in your heart, you will never become a Buddha. With no devil in your heart, you can become a devil. When there's a devil in your heart, you will never become a devil. Ming Xian's frame of mind wasn't there yet, so he couldn't comprehend the meaning of that sentence, but the old monk could. The old monk had only comprehended the true essence of this word when he had reached celestial being realm. However, despite having cultivated to the life and death realm now, he still couldn't break the Buddha in his heart. The deeper the cultivation, the more one understood the power of God and devil, and how remarkable Rulai was. It was easier said than done. The similar logic had been spat out by this lad made it seem like extremely odd. Even odder, this lad actually said that he had broken God and Buddha in his heart. Qin Mu's age was too young and definitely couldn't have come into contact with the true essence of this sentence. Since he was unable to come into contact with the true essence, how was he able to break God and Buddha in his heart? To break God and Buddha in one's heart, one had to go through tough cultivation and have enlightenment, otherwise, Buddha will still be Buddha and God will still be God in his heart. Anyway, he has not learned the grand technique of our great thunderclap monastery, so no matter how high his frame of mind is, he still will not be able to defeat Ming Xian. The old monk looked downwards and seemed to have calmed down and didn't put the outcome in mind. On the arena, Ming Xian's lanky body glowed faintly with golden light, giving people the feeling that he was a divine, solemn and great Buddha, putting an incomparable pressure on their spirits. Below the arena gathered all the people from various villages. They were all attracted by battles and were causing quite a commotion, but when Ming Xian's body emanated a golden glow, the voices immediately vanished, becoming absolutely silent. They had practically shut their mouths simultaneously, as if they had all heard a deafening shout in their faces. This is the cultivation method of Buddhism, Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. This cultivation method was different from the cultivation of other sections. The path they took proceeded from the outside to the inside. Outside meant the outside of the body that thus gone absolute, and inside meant the heart that had thus gone absolute. Buddhism referred to them as absolute body and absolute heart. Even though Ming Xian had only cultivated to the absolute body stage, but with the image of Buddha appearing, it was like a deafening shout in their faces. Granny C and the rest couldn't help being nervous again. Ming Xian had yet to attack, and his bearing had already displayed the severity of his strength to demoralize Qin Mu's fighting spirit. One might well ask, who would dare to attack Buddha? Qin Mu dared. Qin Mu's body and heart came together as one, followed by his heart and mind and fist and chi and body. All came together as one, and his spirit embryo also moved together with his body. With his body and spirit as one, he executed Tempest of the 9 Dragons. Qin Mu's footwork was cripple's heaven-pilfering divine legs that had extremely fast speed. Before Ming Xian could even blink, Qin Mu had reached in front of him, and before he could even block, Qin Mu's powerful punch had landed on his chest. Tempest of the 9 Dragons consisted 9 layers of hidden force in a punch. The first layer was like a flame dragon coming out from Qin Mu's fist and smashing into Ming Xian's chest, resulting in a loud boom. The golden glow in Ming Xian's body suddenly grew intense, and a huge golden bell faintly appeared. Qin Mu's second layer of force arrived after the first. The second layer of force was Twin Dragon's Twist. The 2 dragons were coiled around each other as he tunneled towards Ming Xian's chest. Dang! Another sound of the bell rang out. As the 2 forces came too quickly, they almost rang at the same time, causing a deafening boom. After that, it was the third force of Tempest of the 9 Dragons, 3 Dragons Rock Smash, which was followed by 4 Dragons Pounce, 5 Dragons Devil Purge, 6 Dragons Reincarnation, and 7 Dragons Thrashing the Seas. With 7 layers of force bursting forth one after another, the bell rang 7 times in succession, and the golden glow around Ming Xian's body finally became dim, resulting in the lanky little monk to move 1 step back. The 8th layer of force, 8 Division Sky Dragon Force, burst forth, and Ming Xian was forced to retreat again. Qin Mu's 9th layer of force, 9 dragons' tempest burst forth as well, and the golden glow around Ming Xian's body shattered. Qin Mu was astonished. Even Devil Ape couldn't handle the full force of tempest of the 9 dragons. Every time Qin Mu had fought with it, he had always stopped at the 6th or 7th layer of force, in case he had seriously injured Devil Ape. However, Ming Xian didn't dodge at all and blocked all 9 layers of force head-on. Heeding Granny C's advice, he didn't hold his strength back and had used all his power. He had even mobilized the power of his spirit embryo divine treasure, but he only forced Ming Xian a few steps back. You didn't receive the true teachings of Thunderclap 8 strikes. Ming Xian moved and the vital qi beneath his soles exploded. With his rapid speed, he raised his palm and the sound of thunder rolled out. With just a punch, the roar of a dragon could actually be heard. Boom! Before the punch even landed on Qin Mu, he could see Ming Xian's vital qi turning into a green dragon. Despite it being faint, the dragon looked menacing and extremely tyranny. The first layer of force from Tempest of the 9 Dragon actually formed a shape from his vital qi. This showed that his vital qi was also very dense, and the most crucial point was that he had a perfectly matching cultivation method for Thunderclap 8 strikes. This was what Qin Mu was lacking. Qin Mu took the strike head-on, and felt that the first layer of force was unusually powerful. However, before he could completely receive the first strike, the second layer of force had followed up with Twin Dragon Twist. The 2 dragons formed by his vital qi twisted and turned, twisting Qin Mu's arms crooked. The third layer of force then followed up by smashing directing onto his arms. Blood splattered from Qin Mu's arm as his footwork became flustered as he continued to retreat. Rocks also flew in random directions as the arena was trampled under his feet. As the 4 dragon qi pounced towards him, Qin Mu gave a grunt and his vital qi rushed into his eyes, awakening Heaven's eyes immediately. The vital qi in his hand transformed into a long spear and pierced through the 4 dragons and stabbed with a clink onto Ming Xian's palm. Before Ming Xian's 5 dragons' devil purge could burst forth, his vital qi was dissipated by this spear. As the 2 kinds of forces clashed, the spear formed by Qin Mu's vital qi had also dissipated. Qin Mu raised his eyebrows and looked at Ming Xian's palm. There was a drop of blood flowing down, as his palm got pricked open by the spear. Qin Mu's arms were badly mangled, of course, and his wound was more severe than Ming Xian's. Qin Mu took a deep breath as his vital qi suddenly started blazing as he rushed toward Ming Xian. Spring thunder on the lonely East Sea. This time he didn't use the water attribute and had changed to fire instead. It was like a blazing fire river descending from the sky into the sea, trying to ignite the sea. Ming Xian remained unmoved and raised his hand to welcome it, his eyes being extremely clear. Without the cultivation method, everything is fabricated and only look impressive. Ming Xian also executed Spring Thunder on the lonely East Sea, and thunder burst forth from his palms, devastating the souls with the rumblings of thunder. Qin Mu's fiery bearing was disintegrated straight away, and at this moment, Qin Mu raised both of his hands and they ignited in flames. Using hands as knives, he slashed them towards Ming Xian like a crazed devil. Pig slaughtering knife skill, sun on East Sea 1,000-layer waves. This was an extremely insane move, as it was hard for Butcher's knife skills to unleash supreme power without becoming insane. There had to be the grandeur of a huge sun rising along with the 1,000 layers of waves overlapping each other, using the matchless knife power to cut down and shatter every power in its way. Slash 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 slash. The overlapping of 1,000 waves and the overlapping of 1,000 knives. There was nothing that couldn't be cut down and nothing that couldn't be shattered. Ming Xian's face slightly changed, however. Qin Mu frowned instead. He could see that Ming Xian was executing the 8th form of Thunderclap 8 strikes, 1,000-armed Buddha. The palm of this little monk met with his, and it was like a Buddha with 1,000 of arms blocking his insane knives. Qin Mu's heart slightly sank. His hands weren't actual knives. Ming Xian's defense was extremely strong. It was hard to chop off his hands. Then I shall go faster. Faster and faster. So fast until you can't catch my knives. Midnight battle across stormy cities. Qin Mu was like a crazed devil and he continued to slash crazily. There was only a single thought in his mind, which was faster, 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 so fast that he could behead the Buddha. There's no pig in this world that the pig slaughtering knife cannot slaughter. Qin Mu shouted ruthlessly as his vital qi went rampant. Dang 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 dang. Ming Xian used thousand-armed Buddha to block, and suddenly, he missed Qin Mu's hand knife as it hit him on his throat. The huge bell protecting his body gave a ring. Following that, a second knife broke through his defense and hit him exactly on the throat again, causing another ring. The third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth knife. Qin Mu's knives grew faster and faster while repeatedly hitting the same spot, which was the throat. Senior brother, I learned the same skills as you back then, and we know each other very well. There's a flaw in your thousand-armed Buddha. Sitting in front of the old monk, old Ma said indifferently, it looks like you have imparted the flaw to your disciple as well. The old monk's white eyebrows twitched and immediately knew what flaw he was saying. When he was learning the skills back then, he had fallen asleep in one of Rulai's classes, and the class was teaching them about thousand-armed Buddha. Buddhism is all about fate. The old monk had missed this fate and thus was unable to ask Rulai about the essence of thousand-armed Buddha. He could only ask his senior and junior brothers to attain thousand-armed Buddha, but after all, it couldn't be compared to authentic teachings from Rulai. His thousand-armed Buddha had indeed an imperceivable flaw. The old monk had also discovered this flaw and wanted to mend it. However, the more he tried to mend, the bigger the flaw became. To solve the problem, one must find out the source of the problem. Thousand-armed Buddha was extremely complicated and required all of one's senses to work together. The numbers of variations were simply too many to count, and any small mistake could never be from just a single reason. It could be caused by several or dozens of reasons that seemed to have no affiliation with the problem. The old monk started seeking the cause of the flaw since young and still hadn't found it now. The flaw in his thousand-armed Buddha was naturally passed on to Ming Xian as he was his disciple. This flaw was very minor and only could be revealed under extremely fast attacks. How this flaw works was when his arms passed through an inch below the throat, his vital qi would become slightly frail. When under the high-speed attacks of the enemy, because of the frail vital qi in the arms, the speed of him raising his hands would be slightly slower. In that instant, the flaw would appear at the throat in a flash. The old monk had a very high cultivation, thus not many people would force out his flaw, but it was different for Ming Xian. In terms of cultivation, Qin Mu was above Ming Xian, and with Qin Mu's hands as knives, they became unusually fast. In just a short while, he had already struck 100 blows on Ming Xian's throat. At the 68th blow, the golden glow around Ming Xian's body had already shattered once. Even though Ming Xian had gathered his vital qi to form the huge golden bell again, Qin Mu's knife had already slashed into his throat. Blood flowed out profusely from Ming Xian's throat and dyed his white Buddhist robe blood red. The old monk let off a sigh. Silly child, if your thousand-armed Buddha is unable to block his knives, don't you know how to use another move? Ming Xian suddenly realized his mistakes. As he tried to receive Qin Mu's knives, he had forgotten he would only receive a beating if he continued to defend only. However, with the short time gain using his golden bell to block Qin Mu's knives, he would have a chance to defeat his opponent. It was because of Qin Mu's insanity that had intimidated him, causing him to forget what he was good at. He suddenly changed move as his palm clenched into a fist, vibrating the air. His fist was like a huge golden sun that was extremely dazzling. Sunshine refining Yang soul in the sky. In this moment, a melodious Buddha voice actually sounded out from his madra, and following it was a loud rumble from the thunder and palm that was enough to purge souls. His sunshine refining Yang soul in the sky was different from Qin Mu. The power of this move was several times stronger than what Qin Mu was able to unleash. Receiving a blow from this move, Qin Mu instantly felt Muddlehead as his 3 souls moved simultaneously, and all his 7 spirits got startled. Thud thud thud. Qin Mu raised his finger and gave a series of dazzling pokes to his forehead, tailbone, navel, head, throat, heart, perineum and lungs to lock his 3 souls and 7 spirits in place. Heavenly Devil Nature Technique. Granny C had imparted Heavenly Devil Nature Technique to him, which was meant for him to bind the souls and spirit, locking the essence and blood to strip the skin for making clothes, and now it was actually used by Qin Mu to bind his own souls and spirits in order not be purged by Ming Xian's attack. Sa Mo Yi. An urgent devil voice sounded out as Qin Mu gave a pinching flower gesture. With a jolt from his palm, the Devil Freedom Madra attacked forward, causing Ming Xian's soul to waver, and almost got dragged out from his body. However, at this moment, Qin Mu suddenly changed his attack and changed from a devil technique to a Buddha technique. Sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky. Ming Xian's sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky was to turn his fist into the sun, using the thunder lap to shatter soul and the golden glow to purge soul. Whereas Qin Mu's sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky turned his fist into a sun ignited with vermilion bird vital qi, with an astonishing heart that could melt steel. Qin Mu opened up his fist and the air in his palm instantly exploded with a huge impact in the opponent's face, messing up the opponent's soul. There was a difference between old Ma's sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky and the old monks. It was obvious the old monks was of authentic tradition while old Ma had improved on it and focused more on the power. It was just that Qin Mu didn't have Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Therefore, he was unable to unleash the full power. Just as Ming Xian's soul wavered from the impact and nearly flew out of his body, another low shout resonated out. Samoi! Qin Mu actually changed his move again, and with the pinching flower gesture, Devil Freedom Mudra was once again executed. Granny C, the old monk and the rest were all startled from seeing Qin Mu swapping between mudras of Buddhism and the devil unimpeded and smoothly. It was definite that Buddha would have a conflict with devil. To execute Buddha techniques after using devil techniques would be exceptionally difficult and never be as smooth as what Qin Mu had done. It's the overlord body vital qi. Def gave a smile and muttered. Granny C heard it and her heart slightly jolted. Def is right, only the overlord body vital qi with no attributes could swap between Buddha techniques and devil techniques smoothly. Muir is indeed an overlord body, village chief was right. The old monk suddenly rose up and chanted the name of Buddha. Qin Mu's devil freedom mudra instantly lost its power, and an invisible force separated him from Ming Xian. Ming Xian wanted to readjust his spirit to fight Qin Mu again, but darkness fell over him as his body swayed. He had lost too much blood from his throat, which had almost been slashed apart into two. I've lost. The old monk gave old Ma a look and beckoned Ming Xian to come over. Junior brother, I may have lost this time but not the next. Ming Xian, we have wandered everywhere and haven't found a place to settle. How about we look for a good karma nearby and find a village to settle in? Ming Xian's throat was still bleeding as he stepped forward, and the old monk helped him bandage it up after applying ointments. He then spoke to old Ma in a profound manner. Junior brother, the monk's staff may be gone but another still can be made, however. A head could only be lost once. Once you lose, you'll lose everything. Also, little benefactor, cultivating devil techniques had made you treacherous and murderous. Beware of sinking into the depths of hell, and never to reincarnate by taking the path of the devil. Finished saying, he brought Ming Xian and floated away without stepping on the earth. Qin Mu jumped down the arena, sending the old monk and the disciple off with his gaze. Old Ma looked grave. It was apparent that he was worried about the old monk's words. Grandpa Ma, Granny, if they have the chance, would they kill us? Granny C coldly laughed. Subduing demons and devils is how old Baldy makes a living, so if they have the chance, our end not be any better than woman Wu. As for old Ma, she shook her head. By imparting out the skills of Thunderclap 8 strikes, old Ma had already breached the taboo of Great Thunderclap Monastery. Qin Mu asked puzzledly, then why don't we just kill him to save ourselves from the trouble? Why do we still have to wait for him to come and stir trouble? Granny C's eyes brightened up and supported his words. Our Moor is starting to have the demeanor of an overlord body. Apothecary, mute, blind, how about we just silence this old Baldy and little Baldy? Even the old monk had gone far away. He subconsciously hastened his footsteps when hearing that and flew away with Ming Xian with no further thoughts on settling nearby disabled elderly village. Granny C and the rest didn't give chase as well, and had continued their own works instead. Def suddenly sighed ruefully. Great Ruins is getting more and more unreliable. Any demons and monsters could also enter here and create a fuss. Blind nodded his head in agreement, making us honest people unable to have a moment of peace. Old Ma, there's no point in hiding like this. When the day comes and you want to go back to Great Thunderclap Monastery, us old bones will follow you there. Old Ma was moved, but he didn't show it and instead lifted up the monk's staff. I slaughtered my way out of Great Thunderclap Monastery back then, so I naturally have to slaughter my way back without your help. Moor, you have won this, so it belongs to you. Qin Mu took over the monk's staff and it wasn't as heavy as he had thought. The monk's staff had obviously pushed the table down deep, but it was pretty light in his hand, so he asked bewilderingly, "Is this monk's staff very valuable? Why did old Ma have to use his head as a wager?" "Valuable? It's not really valuable." Granny checked out the monk's staff and grinned. "Do you know Border Dragon City? This monk's staff could only buy down a Border Dragon City at most." Qin Mu's eyes opened wide. This plain-looking monk's staff could buy down the entire Border Dragon City? The name of this monk's staff is called Kakara, having 4 crotchets and 12 rings. It was made by Rulai from the Great Thunderclap Monastery, and can also be used for beating people. It should be worth as much as Border Dragon City. Old Ma gave an introduction. However, this monk's staff is used more for cultivating. When you hold onto the staff, any rouse in desires or emotions will cause the rings to jingle. Once the rings jingled, all the distracting thoughts in your mind would vanish. Thus it is a treasure to get rid of the devil in your heart. The 12 rings can break 12 types of distraction and get rid of 12 devils inside. When the devils inside your heart emerge, the rings will jingle and the devils inside your heart would be covered and turned into dust. The staff is separated into 4 crotchets, which are to abstain from fleshly desires, to practice the 4 noble truths, to cultivate equality and to achieve Zen. With this monk's staff, cultivation will be twice as fast. Granny C's eyes instantly brightened up and glowed as she stared at the monk's staff on Qin Mu's hand. "Mu, lend Granny the monk's staff for a minute. There's a great devil inside Granny's heart that has annoyed Granny for quite a long time." Qin Mu passed the Kakra monk's staff to Granny C and asked curiously, "What kind of devil resides in your heart, Granny?" "An old fellow." Granny C gave a sigh and creased her forward. "No matter what I do, this old fellow can't die. I have killed him over 1,000 times and he is still alive and causing havoc in my heart. If I can use this monk's staff to kill him, I can finally be at peace." Qin Mu still didn't know what old devil in her heart was, and Granny C didn't elaborate further. When the monk's staff landed in her hands, all 12 rings immediately jingled furiously, creating a deafening sound. Granny C's devilish nature erupted and a terrifying demeanor emanated out from her. This demeanor doesn't seem to belong to her, and she was like another person entirely. Qin Mu's hair stood on ends. There was another person living inside Granny C. Blind, Old Ma, cripple, apothecary, and mute also had their hair standing on ends. They immediately took a step back as the terrifying atmosphere had also made them feel threatened. A while later, Granny C became disappointed and returned the monk's staff to Qin Mu. "This thing can't do anything to that old devil. Goddamn! Why can't I kill him?" Qin Mu took back the monk's staff and tried to strap it on his back with the bamboo staff. However, it was too long, making it inconvenient for him to move around. Therefore, he could only hold it in his hand. "You aren't a monk, so throw that staff on the cow cart." Old Ma then declared, "You have passed the test for the temple fair today. There's no need for you to continue fighting. To be able to defeat the Great Thunderclap Monastery's disciple is considered a great achievement. However, Ming Xian isn't the disciple of Rulai, and his ability is still far from Rulai's disciple. Do you understand?" Qin Mu conveniently threw the extremely valuable monk staff on the cow cart and asked curiously, "How strong is Rulai's disciple?" Old Ma indifferently replied, "I was Rulai's disciple back then. When you could defeat me, you would be considered a true overlord body." Qin Mu's heart tremored. When he trained with Old Ma every day, Old Ma had only used Spirit Embryo Realms cultivation, but even so, he was always bruised by Old Ma's punches. One needs to know that Old Ma only had one arm left. If he had both of his arms, who knows how terrifying is his power? Qin Mu knew that there was still a very long path for him to walk. The temple fair in Grandma Temple lasted for 2 days, and when evening came, many people had started to pack up their stalls and moved into Grandma Temple. This temple was very wide and had stone statues as guardians as well. This was a safe place to hide from the darkness invasion. Qin Mu drove the cow cart into Grandma Temple and raised his head up to take a look, seeing the sunset shining over the entire Sirius Palace. When he had entered Grandma Temple, he then knew why Sirius Palace had been referred to as Grandma Temple. This was because in the main hall of the temple, a statue of a benevolent old woman was being enshrined and worshipped here. The amicable-looking old woman was like any other old woman in neighboring village, having a crafty look in her eyes. The sculpture was very vivid and lifelike. Qin Mu actually felt that she looked like Granny C and gave the statue a few more looks. However, he jumped in shock when he used Heaven's eyes to take a look. The amicable-looking old woman was actually overflowing with a fiery atmosphere. Her divine light formed an extremely huge and towering wolf, howling towards the heaven as if it was going to swallow it. Beside the main hall, there were still front palace hall, 2 side halls and an empty garden that took up a very vast area. There was also a pond in the garden that had dried up, and inside was a few sets of skeletons. Qin Mu went closer to take a look and deduced that those are probably fish bones. However, the fish were huge, spanning about 20 yards in length. What was weirder was that these fish bones actually had the characteristic of a dragon. Apothecary called him back and took out ointments to put in his wounds while Mute and Blind were frying an egg on the side. The hen dragon had laid a coconut-sized egg and was clucking noisily away. In Grandma Temple, the other villagers had all started their fire to make their dinner. After the sun had set and finishing their dinner, they would be ready for sleep. At this moment, a young man suddenly ran from outside the temple with an anxious expression and shouted, "Midwife! Is there a midwife here? My wife is about to give birth." Everyone in the temple looked towards him, and yet nobody made a sound. Granny C stood up and replied while trembling, "Old one here is pretty skilled and has delivered a baby every now and then. Could your wife still hold it in? The sky is almost dark. If she can hold out until dawnbreak tomorrow, I can go over." The young man fell to his knees and kowtowed repeatedly. "She can't wait anymore. I beg you to save my wife and child. My wife is in difficult labor, and the midwife in the village is unable to deliver my child." Granny C looked at the setting sun and gave a troubled expression. "Please help me. I beg you." The young man knocked his head until it started bleeding and wailed, "My wife had a few children these few years and they were stillborn. If this child is to die as well, my bloodline would be cut short." Granny C was astonished. "They were all stillborn?" The young man repeatedly nodded his head. Granny C asked suspiciously, "Since she has a difficult delivery, the child is definitely not stillborn. There's something weird going on. Is your village far from here?" "Not far. It's only 7 miles away from Grandma Temple." Granny C took a glance at the setting sun and gave a breath of relief. 7 miles? You are from Zhang Manor, which is not far away. We'll be able to make it before nightfall. Blind Moor, follow me. There's something suspicious going on. Qin Mu was surprised. Granny C was a cranky person normally, and it was not expected that she was actually such a good-hearted person. The young man immediately got up to his feet and sprinted towards the direction of Zhang Manor. He should be a martial arts practitioner and had decent speed. He was scared of going back late yet when he turned around. Granny C blind, and even the 11 to 12 years old boy had managed to keep up with him. "You're too slow." Blind, the old fogey, said. "Moor, carry him and pick up your speed in case the sun sets." Qin Mu immediately rushed forward and carried the man without a word, warning him, "Beware of the knife on my back. Don't cut yourself." The man immediately said, "Put me down, you won't run fast enough carrying me." Before he could complete his sentence, the wailing of the wind rang in his ears as Qin Mu leaped out of the forest and ran on top of the trees. The man was shocked as the wailings of the wind grew louder and louder. The youth that was carrying him also ran faster and faster as he thought to himself, "How did this brother cultivate? He's way stronger than me." In the midst of his sprint, Qin Mu had a feeling of stepping on the wind, and he thought to himself, Grandpa Cripple said he had refined his body at spirit embryo realm while walking on the cusp of the gust. If I could find the cusp of gust, could I also walk on the wind? However, what exactly is the cusp of the gust? While he was sprinting, there was no time for him to ponder over it. The man on his back was still worried that Granny C and Blind couldn't keep up, and suddenly he saw both of the elders sitting cross-legged behind Qin Mu. The two of them were actually swept up by the whirlwind rays from Qin Mu's sprinting, and were no less slow than Qin Mu. What kind of body technique is this? He was stupefied. The sun had finally set as the darkness swarmed from the west, shrouding and swallowing everything in its path. With Qin Mu's speed, he could see Zhang Manor in the distance and immediately sprinted towards it, hoping to reach there before the darkness caught up him. Whoosh! Even though he managed to stop himself, the strong wind behind him continued to blow forward. Granny C and Blind, who was sitting on the wind, floated several yards forward before stretching out their legs to get their footing on the ground. Qin Mu was stumped for a while before becoming elated. Cusp of gust. So this is the cusp of gust.